Hey Meeting Street, it's Miss Castaway. I hope you guys are having a great day. I am here to give you a lesson on long note rhythm values. So in class, we have worked a lot with two different rhythms. We've worked a lot with quarter notes, which are worth one beat, and then we've worked with eighth notes that are worth it's two sounds to a beat, or if you'd like to think about it as half a beat, then that will work as well. So today we're going to be working on reading some notes that last for a longer time. So they're not quicker, they're slower. And so the first note we're going to learn about is our whole note. Our whole note is worth 4 beats. And I kind of remember when I was learning what all these rhythms were, I always remembered a whole note because it looks like the hole inside a donut. But it's spelled differently. But if you want to remember it that way, it just looks like a hole. And then our half note kind of looks like a quarter note, except it's not filled in. Our half note is going to be worth 2 beats. So, whole note is 4, half note is 2, and then my quarter note is going to be worth 1. I forgot to write it on there. Now, even though I did remind you of what our eighth notes look like and sound like, we're not going to be using those today. So what I said earlier is we're working on notes with long values. So if you think about math, and we're going to be doing a little bit of math today, if you think about math, the word value is just how much something is worth, right? Even if you go to the store and you think, well, what's the value of that Coca-Cola? The value is going to be how much it's worth. So if we talk about a note value, it's how many beats it's worth. So I want you to look at this. This is a really just bare bones drawing of a measure of music. There are no notes on it, but you'll see a couple of things. You'll see here at the beginning, we have a time signature. That 4 on top means that we're going to have 4 beats in our measures, right? So all you have to do is be able to count to 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I did it twice because what do we have at the end? It's a repeat sign. So if you ever see these 2 dots, it means you go back to the beginning. If you have the 2 lines, that means that it's the ending. But if the 2 lines are accompanied by those 2 dots, it means we repeat. Okay? So without the dots, it's just the end. With the dots, we repeat it. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I wrote those numbers at the bottom because I thought it would be helpful to show you with our long notes that last 4 beats and for 2 beats. Just like reading a book, we go from left to right. And if it wasn't for the repeat, it would be just like a book where we would go to the next line, left to right. So what I'm going to show you is how to count notes that last for a really long time. Basically, when you see a note or when you see a measure, you can kind of think about it having 4 parts, as long as this number is 4. Sometimes it'll be 3, sometimes it'll be 2, but this one has a 4 on top. So that means we have 4 beats in this measure. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I have a whole note, which I do, this whole note is worth 4 beats. So since the whole note is worth 4 beats, let's see if I can put it up here if my magnet will work. I don't know if it will. Maybe this wasn't a great idea. Yeah, kind of. That's a heavy magnet. All right. Well, so basically I just want you to look and see that this note, this whole note, is on beat 1. It's right above beat 1. So that's where we're going to clap. Now we're going to say or feel those other numbers, those other beats, but the sound, as far as clapping, it only happens on beat 1 because it's worth all 4 beats. So if I'm clapping this, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I move to a different note, where are my others? So many papers. If I move to a different type of note, my half note is worth 2 beats. So if I have my half note here, I have 1, 2 beats, 3, 4. That's the next 2 beats. So if I clapped this one, it would go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I clapped wherever the note was right above the number. So I clapped on 1 and on 3 because these half notes line up on beat 1 and beat 3. Now, if I was doing something other than clapping, these notes actually just hold, but that's a different story. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this one you'll be a lot more familiar with. We have our quarter note. Quarter notes are only worth 1 beat. So that means that they are going to align with every beat. So I have 4 quarter notes. I can't have any more than 4 because then there would be 5 beats, and that wouldn't make sense because our time signature tells us we have 4. So this one would be 1, 2, wind, feels nice, not really helpful right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that probably sounds familiar because we have a term for that. That's just steady beat. So that means every beat has a sound on it. So I made 2 beats or 2 measures that are just a teeny bit more challenging because it has 2 different kinds of notes in a measure. So first, we have our half note. If you don't remember how many beats a half note is worth, then you can just look at how many beats it's worth here. How many beats is there? There's beat 1 plus another is, you have 2 beats. So these are going to be 1, 2. I'm only going to clap on the number 1, and then I also clap on 3 and 4. So the way that will look is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're able to do that. You're able to hold this out because it's worth those 2 beats. But then these quarter notes are only worth 1 beat each. So they have their own like number assigned to it. So 2 beats, 1 beat, 1 beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, last one. This one's probably the most challenging, but it's not too challenging. So our first note is a quarter note. So it's 1 beat. It just gets that 1 number. Our second note is our half note, and it's worth 2 beats. So I put it right above this number 2 because this came first. But since it's worth 2 beats, it's going to take up this beat and this beat. 2 beats. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I will repeat that. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I didn't clap on 3 because this is worth that beat 2, or as well. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So sometimes it can be a little challenging for me at least, to count those longer values and make sure they get all the time that they're worth. Because I tend to be pretty great at counting eighth notes and quick notes like that. But sometimes when they're worth a long value, you have to be super, super patient. Now, what we're going to do to kind of review the values of our notes is we are going to be doing really simple addition and subtraction with our notes. So let me give you an example. If I have my whole note, let me move to where you can see me. I have my whole note that is worth 4 beats. If I have my whole note plus a half note, how many notes is a half note worth? 2. So if I have 4 plus 2, that equals 6. Let's try another. We have our quarter note. How much is a quarter note worth? 1 beat. Plus a half note. How many beats is a half note worth? It's worth 2 beats. So 1 plus 2 equals 3. So quarter plus half equals 3 beats. It's kind of like a word problem where if you're doing these, it's really good to remind yourself to put the word beats after it, just so that you can kind of remember what it is you're adding or subtracting. Let's do a couple more. Okay. Let's do quarter note plus whole note. I'm going to give you a second to think about it. Think of how much a quarter note is worth plus how much a whole note is worth. So how many beats is a quarter note worth? 1 beat plus 4 beats equals 1 plus 4 equals 5 beats. So I'm going to give you three questions, and I want to see if you are able to answer it. You can do it in your head, or if it's easy to write it down, I would suggest doing that. Since it's new, I would suggest maybe writing down the numbers. So here's number 1, number 2, and number 3. And then we'll go over it. So I'm going to give you a second to think about all of them. Okay, we already did a couple of these. Okay, I'll give you a second to think about it. Okay, so quarter plus quarter, how much is a quarter note worth? Yep, 1 plus 1 equals 2. So 2 beats. Quarter plus quarter equals 2. Now, I know this math is really simple, but remembering the value of the notes is what we're working on. I trust that you guys can do 1 plus 1. So now we have quarter plus half. Quarter note is worth 1. Oops. Half note is worth 2. 1 plus 2 equals 3. Is that what you got? Okay, last one. Half note is worth 2 beats plus a whole note. It looks like a 0, so don't get confused with that. Whole note is worth 4 beats, so 2 plus 4 equals 6. Now, you could do that with subtraction. You could do it with multiplication because they're pretty simple numbers. I mean, other than I guess the 4s would be the highest. So as long as you know your times tables up to 4, you'd be able to do it with multiplication. Division could be really tricky because well, won't get into that. But you could challenge yourself in a ton of different ways doing math with music notes. Now, sometimes when I'm reading a piece of music, if I am looking at a piece that I've never read before, then sometimes I do that math in my head. Like if I see a half note, and I know that I'm supposed to have 4 beats in a measure, then I know that I'm counting to 2, and then I know that that next rhythm is going to only have 2 beats as well. So it's kind of complicated, but subconsciously, which means you're not like really thinking about it, subconsciously, this is a really good skill to have when you're sight reading, when you're trying to figure out what a rhythm is. So yeah, we have a chalk game that we're going to be doing using our notes and a couple other fun activities the rest of the week. So I love you guys. I miss you guys. And I hope you have a great day. Take care.